Micah Parsons situation is not a good look for the Dallas Cowboys. It's been a few days now, but Micah Parsons publicly announced his trade request on social media last Friday. And man, there's quite a lot to read into here. So to sum it up, Micah Parsons has an agent who he's hired to handle his contract negotiations, as most players do. And after his third season in the league, which was the 2023 season, he wanted to talk extension. The team wasn't interested in that point, so business as usual. We move forward to this past season and now off season, and Micah Parsons is ready to negotiate again. And he tells the team, if you want to negotiate with me, you can talk to my agent. But Dallas has not historically done stuff like that, and they didn't do this at the start. They did bring in Micah Parsons, though, in March for a dialogue, and some of that was about a contract, but nothing set in stone, at least to Micah. So he goes to his agent wondering, hey, why have they not reached out to me? And so the agent reaches out to Dallas, and as far as the Cowboys are concerned, the negotiations are set. And so Micah Parsons' agent tells Dallas the truth. You didn't go through me, and so there's nothing set in stone. Let's please talk through contract negotiations. And at this point, nothing. And when you couple all this negotiation drama with some of the stuff Jerry Jones has said about Micah Parsons this offseason, it was enough for Micah Parsons to feel like enough is enough. I don't want to be somewhere where I don't feel valued. Not to mention 20 minutes later, you also have CeeDee Lamb publicly endorsing Micah Parsons. Now, we're not going to go overboard here. These contract negotiation dramas are quite frequent around the league these days, especially when it comes to some of the top talent around the league. Take T. Higgins and his year-long debate with the Bengals regarding his money. We have Terry McLaurin going through some extended stuff right now. And now we have Micah Parsons. For all we know, this could go on for a while, and Micah Parsons could get his bag at the end of the day, his well-deserved bag. But where I think this news is kind of telling is where the Dallas Cowboy organization really is right now. We just talked about this last video with the New York Jets, and if you didn't watch that video, check it out right here. But one of the main things we talked about was the inability of the Jets to sign some of their premier talents that they developed with their first-round picks to second contracts. And yeah, their inability to keep that homegrown talent in the locker room has kind of had an impact on where they've been the last 15 years. But lately, things have been different for the Jets. The old regime re-upped Quinn into a second contract, and now the new regime has come in, and one of the first things they did was lock up the two bona fide talents on the roster, Sauce and Garrett, to their own second contracts. They believe in those guys to help turn the tide, and they're treating them like that. But in the case of the Dallas Cowboys, it's exactly the opposite. Every single star guy on that team has kind of been in the midst of a contract dispute as of late. Just last season, we had Dak's extended dispute before he ended up getting his $60 million bag. CeeDee Lamb in a contract negotiation dispute before he got his second highest paid receiver bag. Zach Martin, back when he was last up for his extension, was in a bit of some drama. Ezekiel Elliott even, back when he was cooking. And I'm not going to be absolute and say all of these guys deserved an immediate bag and what they were asking for without any dispute whatsoever, because then you kind of get into relative positional importance, where these guys rank amongst other top guys at their position. But one thing I do believe, specifically in regards to CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, these are 1A guys, premier guys. These guys don't come around very often, man. Not at wide receiver and pass rusher. At the same time, too, you do what you can to keep these guys happy and make sure that they want to stick around. Those two guys, along with Dak Prescott, are the franchise pillars, man. They are the culture pillars. Those two, they raise the ceiling of what we think the Dallas Cowboys can be and what they can achieve. So yeah, to be breaking trust with top-end talent like that because you don't want to talk with the guy's agent for their contract negotiations, it just seems like a bad way to lose trust with someone so important to your organization. I mean, yeah, there's still a great chance that everything ends up fine between Micah Parsons and the Cowboys, and they get back to the negotiation table and agree on a deal that keeps Micah in Dallas for the foreseeable future. But even still, it feels like we are reaching a point where a key player is in a contract standstill with the Cowboys every single offseason, to the point where at this time of year, we're talking about what's going on off the field instead of the on-field optimism for the team. And I just don't like that. Okay, well, I kind of lied. I kind of do like it, as someone who kind of shares, that general sentiment of animosity towards America's fan base, the Dallas Cowboys. Stephen A knows what I'm talking about. Why don't you tell him, Stephen A? But yeah, as a neutral fan of the sport, I don't like it. Anyways, while we're on the topic of the Dallas Cowboys, let's talk about what their on-field product could look like this year and go ahead with their season preview. Obviously, injuries played a big factor in how their season ended up last year, with guys like Dak and then both Diggs and Bland in the secondary going down, but there were also a lot of holes exposed in this team last season. And after what was a very, very quiet offseason, last offseason, they were a lot more proactive in trying to address those holes this offseason. One of those weaknesses was finding a second perimeter weapon to go alongside CeeDee Lamb, and they absolutely addressed that this offseason with the addition of George Pickens. He adds a vertical dimension to this passing offense, another level of explosiveness, and to go with Jake Ferguson as well, along with CeeDee, that's a very nice receiving trio for the Dallas Cowboys right now. The passing offense for the Cowboys now looks absolutely like the strength of the team. And for them to make the noise that they want to make this year, that unit is going to have to be top 10. And with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson, they definitely have the potential to at least fight for that. Outside of that, though, most of the other remaining questions that were there from last season are still left unanswered. One of those is the running back position, where last year Dallas actually found a pretty solid answer in Rico Dowdle, who quietly rushed for 1,000 yards last year. Yeah, I was actually quite surprised to see that upon doing the research for this video. But he went off to Carolina this offseason, so in his place, Dallas has brought in a trio of guys to try and be the answer. Javonte Williams from Denver, Miles Sanders from Carolina, and Jaden Blue, a rookie running back out of Texas. Jaden Blue is probably the most interesting of those three guys, but none of them are proven answers at this level of football. So it remains to be seen if Dallas can find something in their run game, because one, they really could use it to help balance the attention that will be placed on their passing game. And two, as good as Rico Dowdle was statistically last season, Dallas's run game overall was #not good. I mean, yeah, if we just look at the EPA metrics here and sort by worst running games, here's Dallas, third worst in terms of rushing efficiency last season. And speaking of rushing efficiency not being good, the same can be said for their run defense, which was second worst. Their run defense simply has to be better. When you're going up against Saquon Barkley 2 times a year, you got the Commanders' run game with a dual threat quarterback twice a year as well. They simply have to be better. And while they have made some efforts to try and address this, bringing in some edge guys, drafting a couple more, bringing in Solomon Thomas as a second D tackle to go with OC Odigizua. Shout out to him, actually. He got a calm negotiation from the Dallas Cowboys. You got to respect that. But yeah, there's still development that's going to be needed. Someone's going to have to step up at linebacker for these Dallas Cowboys, because the average person has probably not heard of any of these names, except for Kenneth Murray, but that's because he was a bust first-round pick. Looking at Mozzie Smith at the D-tackle position too as someone who it would be nice to see step up. He's a former first-rounder out of Michigan. But yeah, there's places where we can maybe see growth for this Dallas front seven to defend the run, but as of now, it's hard to say exactly where or how that will be coming. The pass defense, though, there is a solution for how that can be improved, and that's simply just the return of Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland, two ball hawks who both had some of the best seasons I've ever seen when it comes to interceptions. I mean, seriously, Trayvon Diggs had 11 picks in 2021, and then Deron Bland followed that up with 14 combined in the 2 seasons after. They haven't both been able to stay healthy, though, in recent years, and Dallas is going to need that from both of them to help solidify that secondary, especially considering that behind them, there once again is answers that are remaining to be seen. Jordan Lewis was their third corner last year. He's gone off to Jacksonville. In his place, they've brought in Kyer Elam, who's bounced around the league, and Siobhan Revel, who is a nice mid-round pick, who I actually liked coming into the draft. But again, there's still development that's going to be needed for us to say that, hey, there's definitively an answer here. There's a lot of room for development throughout this roster, which places a huge emphasis on the coaching, which is brand new for the Dallas Cowboys entering the season. Mike McCarthy was shipped out the door, and in comes Brian Schottenheimer, who was previously working with the offense, and after, a long time in this league, as far back as being the offensive coordinator for my Jets 15 years ago when we were last in the postseason, he finally gets his head coaching gig. This is a very hard one, though, and it's probably as high pressure as one can get. Any failure at this point, any catastrophic failure for this Cowboy team can result in being a one-and-done head coach. So yeah, pressure's on. Same can kind of be said for the new defensive coordinator that he's brought in, Matt Eberflus, who obviously did not have the kindest ending to his time as a head coach. But this is a huge opportunity for Eberflus too. I feel like this season preview has been a bit more negative than I wanted it to be. Let me say this. The highest correlation of regular season success for NFL teams is to have a strong passing offense, and Dallas absolutely has all the means to have just that. There's all the potential for them to be a top 10 offense in this league throwing the football, and that automatically makes them a threat to not just be better this upcoming season, which I think is kind of a given when you have your starting quarterback back and your 2 top guys at corner. It can make them a threat to get back to where they want to be too. That being said, I still have quite a few concerns regarding the rest of the roster, especially when it comes to running the football and defending the run. And in an NFC East featuring 2 of the more complete teams in the league, plus being in an NFC that is deeper than it was just 2 years ago, you're going to need all 4 of your units, including the run offense, run defense, pass offense, to be up to the bar. And I'm not sure across all 4 of those units that Dallas is up to that level. So if I had to predict as of now, I don't think I would put Dallas back into the postseason, but CeeDee Lamb, Dak, and Pickens, they can make me eat my words real quick. But yeah, that's all for Dallas. We'll have more season previews coming though, so make sure to subscribe as we are churning these out over preseason. Also, if you didn't know, I also stream on Twitch. I talk more sports over there. We do some gaming over there. We have some fun, so come through sometime.